Hello, welcome back to Mountaineer News 2, the only channel for advice, and today we are doing week 1 predictions of the college football season. I know, college football starts tomorrow. Well, it technically started yesterday, but tomorrow is going to be all the good games. But there are some games tonight on Friday. Well, there's only 2 that really stand out to me, and yeah, we're going to get started. So, the first game is we got Temple versus number 16 Oklahoma. That game is kicking off at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Oklahoma, heavy favorites over Temple, 43 points. And it's honestly not hard to see why. I mean, Oklahoma has a lot of, expectations this year to try to, they got into the SEC, and they're going to see if they can try to get to the SEC championship in their first year of being in the conference. But to me, this is going to be more of a growing year for Oklahoma, like trying to get used to being in the conference and sort of like an adjustment year. And their home opener against Temple is not going to be too much of an opponent. It's Temple, and have you ever kept up with Temple football? I mean, who even watches Temple football? I think only 6 people watch Temple football? 6 people? But I do know that visiting section will be empty. So yeah, I got Oklahoma big. There's no way Temple is ever going to beat Oklahoma. So, Oklahoma big. Then we have Duke versus Elon. Duke is a 23-point favorite over Elon, or whatever it's pronounced. But yeah, Duke is going to win that very easily. It's going to be a blowout, like always. Then we got an interesting matchup at 10:30 p.m. at night, which is, of course, we got TCU and Stanford, which TCU really disappointed me. I mean, they finished the year 5-7 after making it in the national championship. Sure, they lost a lot of key players, but I thought they would at least make a bowl, but they did not. So I think TCU, they're probably going to rebound this year. This is going to be more of a rebound year. They're probably not going to do too much in the Big 12, but they're playing a pretty below average to a pretty bad Stanford team who I think their only saving grace is them being in the ACC. So I got TCU. Give me TCU. Heading to the Saturday games, we got a pretty big selection of Saturday games, everybody. We got number 1 Georgia versus number 14 Clemson. Georgia, heavy favorites to win the national championship again. And Clemson, in my opinion, is basically on the sad decline of, trying to hold on to, trying to get some championship glory, but really, they really are on the decline. To me, Clemson's on the decline, and it's not due to, coaching staff or players. No, it's more of, they refuse to adapt to the transfer portal. And I respect Dabo Swinney for not adopting the transfer portal. I mean, I completely get it. It is hard to adjust, but consequently, you are, not winning a lot of games. But honestly, and you're going up against Georgia, an 11-point favorite, not really that hard. I'm going Georgia in this game. Give me the win for Georgia. Then we got Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt taking in place on noon on ESPN. Virginia Tech, from what I've been hearing, is a sleeper in the ACC. Now, I don't really buy that too much because, for one, I really didn't see Virginia Tech do much last year, and I do believe that they had a pretty mediocre team last year. Now, you're going to say, oh, what about that recruiting class? Well, okay. Sure, you have a recruiting class, but it's all about the development of those recruits. It's all about the development. Can they develop them into a winner? And it's pretty hard to do that in just 1 year. So I don't think Virginia Tech will win the ACC this year, but they will be better. And they're going up against a pretty easy opponent in Vanderbilt. Of course, Vanderbilt, the laughing joke of the SEC. Give me Virginia Tech, big over Vanderbilt. Then we got a very, selection. We got number 19 Miami versus Florida. Now, Miami to me, I don't get why people really hype up Miami. I mean, last year Miami was better, but still, it's like, like, I don't really know. Like, Miami, I mean, on paper they should be a really good team, but they never are. And as for Florida, well, Florida has been well favored to be very better this year after their train wreck of a season last year. And to be quite honest, yes, last year was a train wreck for Florida, but, well, still, they're still adjusting, and this is a very tough one, but I'm going to go Miami in this one. I feel like Miami has probably the better talent than Florida here, so give me Miami over Florida. Then, well, I'm going to pick some cupcakes here, so let's go Chattanooga versus Tennessee. Who's going to win that game? Of course, Tennessee. Then you got South Dakota State versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, a sleeper to win the Big 12, and to be quite honest, I'm pretty much going to be focused on Oklahoma State. So give me Oklahoma State. Now, the reason why I am not picking the Penn State and West Virginia game is because I'm a WVU fan, and that game is going to be very emotional for me, so best to skip it because, well, I'm going to be very biased, and I'm going to pick West Virginia, of course, but I'm not going to go too much into detail. Then you have Illinois State versus Iowa. Iowa will win because of 700 safeties and their, well, whatever offense they have. And let's scroll down. Akron versus number 2 Ohio State. Who do you think I'm going to go for? Of course I'm going to go for Ohio State. I mean, seriously. Now, Ohio State is favored to win the national championship, and trust me, I get that. And to me, I mean, Ohio State doesn't really need too much of an introduction. I mean, they got a lot of talent during the recruitment, and is expected to be very good as always. Texas versus Colorado State. Same story as Oklahoma. Give me Texas big. Okay. Scrolling down here. You know, there's not a lot of great games, but found another one. Now you got the first game in the post-Saban era, Western Kentucky versus Alabama. Now, of course I'm going to pick Alabama, but I want to touch on Alabama for a second here. Saban's gone, and he's not coming back. So in my opinion, I think it's very wise to say Alabama is not going to be as good as they used to be. Sure, their head coach is clicking with some transfer portal moves and recruitments, but remember, you got to get the Saban off. Like, this is still Saban's team, and he has to make it his team, which is very hard to do. But I trust what they're building there at Alabama, and hopefully they'll be contained, like, unlike what happened under Saban. Then, the big game of the week. The one that everyone's been circling on their calendars and College Game Day is going to go to. You got number 7 Notre Dame versus number 20 Texas A&M. This game is interesting. Texas A&M's got a brand new head coach. And they're favored to win this game over Notre Dame. But, you know, remember, it takes time to grow over these players and to get everyone on the right track. Just because you could do the transfer portal and recruitments all you want, and now you can pay players to go to your school, that still doesn't change the fact that, well, you still got to have chemistry. You got to build chemistry and be a team. But, and as for Notre Dame, well, Notre Dame is also, well, not too impressive, but Notre Dame, they have the more experience here. I will say that Notre Dame has more experience. Sure, they lost a couple of crucial games last year, but overall, they were still a very solid team. Now, with Notre Dame playing with Texas A&M, you could say that Texas A&M is in the SEC and that they have that SEC level structure and all that SEC toughness. But at the same time, you have to remember, well, Notre Dame is still in the top 10. A top 10 team is a top 10 team. So despite Texas A&M being a 3-point favorite, I'm going to go Notre Dame here, but very close. Like Notre Dame wins by at least a field goal or something. Then we got a Sunday game. We got USC versus LSU. USC beginning its term in the Big Ten, and LSU trying to take on the new SEC with Texas and Oklahoma and a post-Saban SEC. This one's interesting. USC was 7-5 last year, and really it was more of, well, the individual players and not a team effort. You see, teamwork is always very crucial, and USC was not a team last year. Then you have LSU, who also didn't really impress me too much last year. So you have two teams that I believe are pretty overhyped, but it is a marquee game, and, well, I'm going to go LSU here because LSU has more consistency, and I do believe that LSU is stacked better against USC, so give me LSU. And then Monday you have Florida State and Boston College. Now, I'm going to pick Florida State, but Florida State, your season's over. And it was in week 0. Your season ended in week 0. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Anywho, that's my predictions for this week, and I'm Mountaineer News 2. So long.